So, it's finally here. We have another Bloons TD Battles 2 teaser, and Ninja Kiwi isn't afraid to show off this time. There have been several changes from the last round of teasers on the Steam page, and I'll be glossing over those as well as some other concepts that I've promised to share in my first video about BTD Battles 2, even though most of the information is likely priced in already and the game will be out within the next few months. Alright, now with that out of the way, let's jump into the differences with the Steam screenshots and the video. First, your profile picture no longer shows up while you're in-game. The Bloons sends have also been changed. In the Steam screenshots, you can see the round that Bloons sends are unlocked at. Now, it's replaced with some sort of time system, judging from the outlines on the Bloons sends, so feel free to use the anti-stall strats at your will since it doesn't seem to matter for this game. In the current game, the next round starts when enough time has passed for either all the Bloons to finish spawning, or when one player has finished popping all of their Bloons from a round, whichever happens first, and this depends on the version of the game played. In addition, the grouped Bloons sends eventually replace the spaced ones instead of using a separate entry, which I think is a smart move to conserve menu space. I'm curious as to what other aspects are changed compared to BTD6, such as the hero leveling curve. Personally, I don't think heroes should have the same leveling curve that they do in BTD6. In Bloons TD6, paying to level up the hero is generally perceived to be an inefficient way to spend cash, and you're better off letting the hero level up naturally. However, in Battles 2 with the quick-paced games, I would imagine having to level up with cash should be more attractive, and as such the costs should be much lower to make up for this. Not to mention, BTD Battles doesn't play every round, rather it plays every other round, with a few exceptions, further incentivizing the need to level up quickly. Whether or not Battles 2 will follow the same round system, I don't know. There are only 40 rounds in the games shown in the teaser, so at first glance it seems unlikely. But also remember, in BTD Battles, these round limits only exist in tournaments, so there still might be, say, the DDT spawning on round 45 and the BAT on 50, if Battles 2 is going to cater to any sort of casual play audience, since based on what I've seen so far, this game is lacking beginner-friendly options. At least for now, rounds 8 and 10 are in the game, so the formula is consistent. Next, the battle arenas are going to be reimagined. We've already had a glimpse of BFB Coliseum earlier, but now we also have Yellow Stadium, White Wasteland, Lead Dungeon, and Ceramic Crucible featured. No strings attached this time, just move up the ranks to gain access to the higher level arenas and get some special badges for them, including potentially a new ZOMG based arena judging from this screenshot. More badges could include this First Blood badge, which is what happens when someone else loses a life for the first time, or more likely when the first life is lost by the other player sending Bloons. While you're loading, you now see tooltips, which is a good touch. Also, more maps have been revealed, including a map returning from the original BTD Battles under a new alias that hits more to home. Koru is an iconic plant found in New Zealand that symbolizes the start of a new relationship, as it suggests growth, harmony, and new beginnings. Maybe the Modern Times Group acquisition breathed some new light into Ninja Kiwi, but more on that in a future video. After all, these two events were announced at the same time, so the idea might not be so far-fetched, even though BTD Battles 2 was in development since late 2018. I'm curious as to what other maps from the original Bloons TD Battles will return in the sequel. Finally, there are more aesthetics to look at, like Bloon decals and custom effects. I also like the fact that you can customize your hero's taunts with the emojis that you gave it in the loadout screen. I originally made this solely as a follow-up video to the BTD Battles sequel video I made, as well as a nod to my April Fool's joke video, but lost motivation to continue working on it and instead focused on Bloons Pop until Ninja Kiwi released this. Some users were actually convinced that the email on it was actually real, considering the fact that it spread through some BTD Battles Discord servers and even the Bloons TD6 subreddit. I'll break down the video and more. First, the music, which is nothing more than the Frosty Fun pack from Bloons 2. Next, the email itself. If it looks familiar to you, then it is. I took this idea from Boltrix from his April Fool's video that he made the previous year and bested it with my experience with support so that it looks more authentic since I've emailed support several times in the past. I'll pull up some of the responses, but you won't get one that's more than a few sentences. In a way, it seems like they're automated messages, but imagine having to respond to thousands of emails on a daily basis. Granted, they have multiple employees who manage the support system, and they've grown some more since Modern Times Group acquired them. Bloons has really grown over the years and gained millions of players. Now onto the smaller aspects of the email. The shielded balloon part is only a flare, and I had no serious thoughts on a suggestion to add it. The modes were, though. I'm sure Ninja Kiwi has thought about a 2v2 player mode to make Battles 2 stand out from its predecessor. It's exactly what it says on the tin. You are paired up with an ally and an opposing team. It combines the elements of co-op and battle mode into one. You can give cash to your ally to help them get the upgrades they need, or to send a huge rush at your opponent without sacrificing your income. Now, I'll be honest, at first Battle Royale mode was just passed off as a meme, but then I thought, how could I expand on defense mode? And this was my answer. It was inspired from a really old game called Desktop Tower Defense, and one of the games in the series had a multiplayer feature which let you spy on your opponent's defenses. Defense mode is honestly a rather boring mode since it doesn't involve sending balloons, which is the main purpose of the game, and probably why it never received that much love in the first place. However, there was certainly some potential when it came to club arenas, including some unused content, which never came to defense mode since it was already crippled from the beginning, and Ninja Kiwi tends to abandon games or game modes that don't work in their favor rather than improve on them. So adding some dynamic to the game mode should encourage players to play defense mode more often. And here's my idea on how the game mode should work. You play with 9 other players in a room. The catch is, every time someone loses all of their lives, something happens for the other players. For example, every time someone loses all their lives, the balloons get faster, income is given less often, etc., similar to how Fortnite is like. You also can't see the other player's defenses unless you spy on them mid-game, which costs battle energy and replaces the balloon boost button. Only their life counts will remain visible throughout the entire match, so you can keep track of how many players are left in the game. It can also serve as great potential for a tournament for defensive players, since the only tournaments that existed in Bloons TD Battles Mobile were assault ones. In this case, I'll give Ninja Kiwi a pass for not including defensive mode tournaments, since, like I said earlier, it would be quite boring to wait for everyone to finish. I also think that the 4,000 income cap should either be massively increased or removed altogether, since if you wanted to last long in defense mode, you are basically forced to use farms to take up a tower slot. As for card battles, well, okay, I get it, missed potential. As much as I'd love to see it, it isn't happening. But I'm not going to leave the discussion out of this one just yet. The idea behind this mode was that every time you played a match, you would receive cards, and once you've gained enough of them, then you can use them in a match against an opponent with some monkey money at stake. The cards are like the Insta Monkeys from BTDB, with a corresponding balloon set component added, but you'd still need the money to place them. I wasn't very clear on this part before, which is why I want to clarify it here. If Ninja Kiwi did change their mind on the off chance, then I could see this having potential in tournaments as well. Now, this game mode once upon a time had a tournament, before tournaments became mainstream to the game, and it was only one time with Candyson and Pro BLG. Unfortunately, the idea of card tournaments never kicked off, and it's a shame that it didn't. In hindsight, card battles probably wasn't added to Battles 2 due to the programming that would need to take place to get the mode working effectively. Not to mention, making 1,408 cards for all the towers and upgrades would be quite tedious, don't you think? Time and time again, I've seen suggestions on the Bloons TD Battles 2, as well as the Bloons TD 6 subreddits on what the COBRA Tower would be like, since it is confirmed to be returning in Battles 2. I have an inkling that for whatever reason it would be a hero, kind of like contrasting Benjamin, where he would use his powers for the good instead of the bad, because in my opinion, just like the Balloon Chipper, some of the Cobra's upgrades would be too broken when spammed, and there's no proper medium for them. The main victim of this is the attrition upgrade. When the Cobra was first introduced, attrition used to be able to take your opponent's last life. If you had a single Cobra, and your opponent had 150 lives, then you could kill your opponent in 19 minutes, with no way for them to counter other than using the Helipilot ability. In practical scenarios, you wouldn't last this long normally, but multiply the number of Cobras by 9, which is feasible with some good farming, and it would only take a little more than 2 minutes to drain your opponent, and not even the Helipilot abilities would keep you safe from the barrage. The Finish Him and Monkey Sim upgrades also share the same problem. They aren't impressive with just one, but once you stack them, they can become borderline broken as well. As a comparison, you have the Bloon Chipper, once a staple of the early Battles era. Then Update 4.1 came out, and this killed the chipper. Super Wide Funnel and SupaVac could no longer affect ZOMGs. You could use a chipper for casual gameplay, but most of the time you could find a more efficient tower to do the job for the same cost, so it ended up getting lost in the dust. So similar to what happened with Pat, the COBRA could serve as its own hero in battles too. As of now, I think I covered all the points that I needed to for what the hypothetical Bloons TD Battles 2 would be like. I've been rather slow in the uptake, but hopefully the wait was worth it. Thanks for watching.